Hello, bon dia, buenos días. Welcome to this informative session of the CaixaImpulse program on behalf of La Caixa Foundation. Well, as you know, CaixaImpulse is a biomedical innovation program that La Caixa Foundation runs in collaboration with Caixa Capital Risk and with the support of EIT Health. And after 7 successful editions, we can say that most of the main elements are known by the system. But despite that fact, we consider it appropriate to explain you some distinctive elements that have been implemented recently in the two calls that we have, CaixaImpulse Validate and CaixaImpulse Consolidate. To do that, I'm not alone here, but I'm together with my colleagues from the Research and Innovation Department at La Caixa Foundation, starting with Belén Perat.
Good morning.
Thank you. Will explain us the main elements of the Validate program, and continuing with Alex Esteban.
Good morning, everyone.
Thank you very much. That will explain us the Consolidate program, and finally as well, Francisco Miguel Torres, that is.
Good morning.
In the backstage, helping us with the editing of the questions and answers that you will be able to pose the team during the next minutes. So let me start with a very, very brief introduction, and maybe we can shoot the second slide. Well, as I was saying, it is the 7th year, so we can explain the program by its numbers and succeed. In the last years, we have been funding more than almost 11 million euros. And but more important than that, so we have been giving financial support to more than 130 projects. But more important than that is that we have been trying to connect researchers and experts in a very intensive accelerating program that has given more than 4,000 mentoring and expert advice hours to the researchers, and that has led the creation of 24 spin-offs that now are struggling to bring the research into society to have a real impact into patients and the general society. So these are the main figures of the program, but maybe another very important one is that we have been trying to contribute to have a shift in the culture of the biomedical research ecosystem towards a more innovation setup. So we are very proud to say that the researchers that have gone and the managers of the technology transfer officers of different research centers that have gone through the program give us a 9.3 of satisfaction with the training and accelerating program. So this is we are very satisfied with that. So if we can see the next slide, and I will stop here and let my colleagues explain the details of the program. We have two sub-programs. When we started that 7 years ago, we realized that there was a need for expert advice at let's say kind of basic level, and try to let's say find early stage projects that needed a first financial support and a first training and mentoring process, so they could mature their projects in next transferring stages. So this is what we did, and the CaixaImpulse Validate tries to do that. Some years after, and always with the collaboration of Caixa Capital Risk, and at some point with EIT Health, we have been working and being part of the accelerating program of EIT Health during the last years. CaixaImpulse, we started the CaixaImpulse Consolidate. We realized that many projects, successful projects in the first stages, needed some more financial support and more personalized guidance to reach successful further transferability stages. So this is what we did. And now this is why we say comprehensive innovation program. So we try to give support in the different maturity stages of the projects, and this is what we are doing now. As well, last year we did a special exceptional program on COVID-19, and I would like to take the most this stage to give our warm thoughts, specifically to our friends in Portugal that are going through a very difficult situation of the pandemics today. Finally, just to say, we realize that there is certain evidence that there is still a necessity, a need in the system of such an acceleration program. For that reason, as well, because of the good acceptance that we are seeing that the community and the researchers that go through the project that we have a very good acceptance. So this is another very good reason. And finally, because of the outstanding science that we see in the research centers in Portugal and Spain, we believe that this program continues to be of interest to you, and this is why we are confident in launching a new call of it and trying to solve your doubts during the following minutes. I stop here, and I would ask Belén Pera to continue with the details with the CaixaImpulse Validate program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nacho. I will go to explain you just a general view of the CaixaImpulse Validate call created in 2015. The main objective of the call is to test and validate your innovation. CaixaImpulse Validate provides support to early stage innovation projects to validate the asset and define the valorization plan. Taking as a reference the technological readiness level, the projects are between 1 and 3, more or less. And what we offer first of all, a financial support up to 100,000 euros to develop the valorization plan, but we are also offering a complete accompaniment program, which includes mentoring, training, and consulting. Next slide, please, Alex. In relation to the college structure, we are focused on 4 different business areas: therapeutics, medical devices, diagnostics, and digital health. The beneficiaries, the call is open for non-profit research institutions which are owners or co-owners of the asset. This is a key part. And thanks to the support of AP Health, as Nacho mentioned, the call is open to European projects. The project leader is to be linked to the beneficiary and have to participate in the development of the asset. Here will lead the valorization project, and they have to be fully committed with the project. The selection criteria. We are focused on these 5 different selection criteria: the quality of science. In this case, the evaluation is focused on the scientific feasibility, the level of development, and the intellectual properties. The valorization project. The evaluation is focused on the identification of the correct identification of the objective and the actions to be carried out. The transfer and potential implementation capacity. Here, the evaluation is focused on the profile, commitment, and motivation of the project leader, but also of the team members. And the number 4, social impact and responsible innovation. If there is existence of mechanisms of involvement, of participation of the main stakeholders. And last but not least, the market potential. Here, the evaluation is focused on the identification of the need or problem to be solved and the clients and the users' potential. The calendar. The call is open now and will be open until March 1st. After that, we will start the evaluation procedure. The peer review remote phase will be developed from April and May, and the final phase of selection, the panel of experts, will be developed in June. The communications, we are planning to make the communications more or less in May, June, and the CaixaImpulse training, mentoring, and expert advice program will start in July, from July to November. It's important to point out that in November, we will organize the valorization panel, which is the panel where all the projects present the valorization plan, and that will be the moment when the financial grant will be approved. Next slide, please. This figure shows a complete selection process. Once the call is closed, we will start the eligibility period where we check that all the projects are eligible. After that, we will start the evaluation peer review phase, where two external reviewers assess the projects. The 40 best ranked projects will be invited to the final phase of selection, the final phase evaluation, the panel of experts. For 2021, we are organizing two panels running in parallel, one devoted to therapeutic projects and the other one devoted to medtech projects. And the panel will propose the final selection and the final 20 projects to be granted. It's important to point out that the selection is based on overall quality of the projects, and there is any quota set in terms of business area or in terms of geographical distribution, for example. And also it's important to know that after each phase of evaluation, we give you to the applicants, to the project leaders, a feedback report with quantitative and qualitative information or comments about the evaluation. Next slide. This is my last slide. As I mentioned, we are offering a financial grant, but we are also offering an accompaniment program. The accompaniment program is distributed in three important pillars. The mentoring program, all the projects has assigned a mentor who guide them during the valorization development. The second pillar is the expert advice. All the projects has 16 hours of expert advice. It is, we have more than 200 experts on board to the program. And the third pillar is a training program. The training program is distributed in 4 different weeks. Each week is focused on one important aspect in the tech transfer, organization, regulatory, legal, and financial advice. The training program is developed thanks to the collaboration with the Barcelona School of Management, which allow us to give an official diploma in tech transfer in life sciences. I think this is it for my part. I give you the floor to my colleague Alex Esteban, who will explain you the details of CaixaImpulse Consolidate call.
Thank you very much, Belen. So I will explain all the details of the second scheme of the CaixaImpulse program, which is the CaixaImpulse Consolidate call. This call is focused on giving support to more mature projects. The idea is to try to help them out to achieve investment readiness stages so that they can attract private investment from private investors and companies. For that reason, eligible projects here, they have to be at least at a TRL 4. And the call is open to projects coming from CaixaImpulse Validate, but also projects coming from other sources or the acceleration programs. The CaixaImpulse Consolidate call offers financial support with a grant of up to 300,000 euros and a personalized accompaniment program that is performed ad hoc and tailored to the needs of each project that is participating. The eligible business areas are the same as in CaixaImpulse Validate, so it's therapeutics, medical devices, diagnostics, and digital health. And because of the level of maturity that it's required for the projects participating in the call, it's important that projects have an IP strategy that's been worked on or it's already in place, and they must come also with a robust development or business plan. The beneficiaries have to be non-profit institutions, so they could be research institutions, universities, hospitals, or foundations that are owners or co-owners of the assets that they present in the call, and they must be based either in Portugal or in Spain. There's an exception, so spin-offs can be eligible as indirect beneficiaries or linked third parties coming along with these beneficiary non-profit institutions only if these companies come from projects that have previously participated in CaixaImpulse Validate, rated in the 18 months prior to the moment of submission of the proposal. The main selection criteria for the evaluators of the call are the 6 displayed in the slide, mainly technical feasibility, the unmet medical need, the development roadmap that they present in the application, the business case, the team and implementation, It's very important, the team behind the project, and also the dimension of responsible innovation. CaixaImpulse Consolidate, it's permanently open. It's open all year round. There are different cutoffs distributed along the year. For this next upcoming cutoff, we can announce it's going to be at the end of March. After the cutoff, we'll start the evaluation process that will end with an interview of the project with the members of the Selection Innovation Board of the program. At the end, when the project is selected, they can benefit from all the resources and all the financial and non-financial support of the program for 24 months. The selection process is performed by the Selection Innovation Board, which is composed of members of La Caixa Foundation, Caixa Capital Risk, and internationally independent experts. And it starts with the applicant submitting a letter of intent, which is a very simplified document with very key questions where the applicant has to highlight the main aspects of the project and the potential of transferability and level of development of the project. Those letters of intent are evaluated by members of the Innovation Selection Board, and this board selects or shortlists a group of projects with the highest potential and the highest quality and invite them to present a full proposal and to defend this proposal in an interview. So they will have the chance at the very end of the process to defend and explain the proposal in front of the entire board of the Selection Innovation Board. The full proposal that the preselected applicants are entitled to submit includes more detailed information of the project, for example, the milestones of the development grant, the budget, the information about the partners, if it's a consortium, and so on. The final decision of the selected participants will be made based upon the recommendation of the board and after the approval of Caixa Capital Risk and La Caixa Foundation. The program offers financial support with this grant of 300,000, of a maximum of 300,000 euros, but it also offers this non-financial support, which is composed of mentorship. We have international mentors engaged in the program that can give support to this project depending on the needs of the project. Expert advice with consultants from different consultancies and coming from different fields, and also personalized and very close follow-up of the projects by project managers from La Caixa Foundation. So the idea is to have a very close interaction to identify better the needs and maximize the support that we can give to projects. So the idea is that the program is very personalized and very tailored to those participant projects so that we can maximize their potential to success. There are two financial considerations that apply to both CaixaImpulse Validate and CaixaImpulse Consolidate. One of those financial considerations is the reimbursement clause. In this sense, if the project achieves one of the main KPIs, which is that the beneficiary institution starts receiving revenues from the exploitation of the asset, La Caixa Foundation will be entitled to ask for the return of the grant. So an example of this revenues can come, or ways of exploitation can come from, for example, royalties, can come from dividends if the institution has shares in an incorporated company, or, for example, direct exploitation and commercialization of the asset. In this case, it applies to both calls, to CaixaImpulse Validate and CaixaImpulse Consolidate, and it's cumulative. That means that if the project participates in both calls, they have to return, or they will have to return in case that this takes place, they will have to return the entire amount, including the grant coming from Validate and the grant coming from Consolidate. The other financial consideration is the subscription right. So in the case that a project incorporates a company, Caixa Capital Risk will be entitled to 1% of the shares of the company. If the project participates in CaixaImpulse Consolidate and CaixaImpulse Validate, this 1%, it's a maximum amount of equity that will be reclaimed. So it's not cumulative as it happens with the reimbursement clause. Overall, just highlight, as Nacho was doing at the beginning, highlight the uniqueness of the program. We think that it has had a very high impact in the innovation ecosystem for the few years that it's been running so far. It has a unique acceleration program and training that includes a partnership with Caixa Capital Risk. It has these very competitive resources in the program, including this training that I was mentioning, but also mentoring, networking, consultancy, and many different activities in the framework of the program. It also offers flexible support to try to maximize the program impact for the projects and also the innovation ecosystem. And it allows a close relationship between La Caixa Foundation and the project so that we can identify all the needs of the projects and we can maximize by doing that the support that we can give them to achieve the main milestones in their development plans or valorization plans. I will end with the team and also the generic email address of the program. So in case you have any doubt, you can reach us by sending your messages to ci-info@fundacionlacaixa.org. And you can also access all the information of the two calls and the program at the website, CaixaImpulse.com, where you have also the rules for participation and all the different details. With this, we end here. We like to thank your attention, and we will now be happy to answer any question related to the program or to any specific aspect of any of those two calls. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Alex. And there are some questions in the chat, so I will start. There is a first question in relation the participation of the PL in the training sessions, or if the team could rotate to attending. Yes, we are flexible in terms to the participation of the training in the training program. A maximum of 3 members by project are allowed to attend. We strongly recommend that the project leader will participate as much as possible to the sessions because they will be the responsible person to defend the valorization plan in front of the panel. But yes, we are flexible. There is a second question in relation to the success rate of the Validate call in 2019 and 2020. We are moving around 18th and 19th% of success rate. Last year in 2020, 109 projects were presented, and finally we will select 20. Okay. Yes.
There's another question. It says how to build a consortium and what is the best practice as observed by the program managers. We have some experience with some projects that have participated in the program where they have presented projects with different partners that are non-profit institutions. So in case that they come in consortium with industrial partners, with companies, these companies, they cannot be beneficiaries of the grant, right? So the only beneficiaries of the grant of the program have to be non-profit institutions, right?
Yes, there is a next question related more or less with this issue. If the private party, a company, is co-owner of the asset, this would be a tricky question because, as Alex said, the final beneficiary of the grant has to be the beneficiary institution. And in this particular case, the private company has to not had the more than 50% of the asset. I recommend you to read the eligibility criteria of the rules of participation, number 4, and that will be this specific clause.
The next question says, what do you mean by open to European projects? That means that the CaixaImpulse Validate call is open to beneficiary institutions that are not only in Spain and Portugal, but also in other European regions, the regions that are included in the Horizon Europe schedule. So those institutions outside Spain and Portugal are also eligible for CaixaImpulse Validate.
Okay, there is a question. How many times could you present to the Validate option? There is no limit. You can present the project in a lot of editions, as you prefer. There is no limit in this case.
The next question is, what is the TRL expected to be reached at the end of CaixaImpulse Consolidate? We don't have fixed objectives based on TRLs for CaixaImpulse Consolidate. So our main objectives are that the projects have enough maturity based on many different KPIs to attract private investment. So the idea is that they can execute different valorization actions that are pending in the valorization plan or in the development plan, so that at the very end of that, they can already contact companies if they are interested in, for example, closing a license agreement, or private investors, venture capital investors, if they are interested in attracting more private investment. During the execution of the program and during the accompaniment program, since we have this personalized accompaniment program and service and follow-up of the projects, we are also willing to help projects to explore the venture capital ecosystem to try to attract investment.
Next question is relation the training and consulting sessions due to the pandemic situation. So in 2020, all the sessions were developed by teleconference. We used Zoom, and in 2021 we are working with a combination. We hope to make some presential or some face-to-face training sessions, and some other part will be remote. It depends on the evolution of the pandemic situation.
We have another question that says that with regard to the business area, are laboratory devices for research in health area also included? The CaixaImpulse program is a program that tries to cover and give support to projects that are very applied to clinical outcomes. So it's true that they are also eligible, so there's not a limitation for those projects to present or submit a proposal to the program, but you have to take into account that you will be competing with many other projects that have more focus on the clinical outcome, and that could be something that goes against this proposal when the evaluators are in the assessment of proposals during the selection process.
Okay. We have a next question. Maybe Alice, you can take care of this.
See, the next question is, could you explain a bit more the role of spin-offs as third parties in CaixaImpulse Consolidate? Yes. These spin-offs that can be eligible to be linked third parties, so they come from a project that has participated previously in CaixaImpulse Validate, or they have been incorporated in the 18 months prior to the application of the proposal. These companies, they can have this figure of indirect beneficiary of the call. So in this sense, they will be like in a small consortium with the beneficiary institution, the beneficiary non-profit institution, and they would be eligible to receive funds, part of the funds or the financing of the grant, but always through the non-profit institution, which is the real and official beneficiary of the grant. So in this case, they can participate in the program. They can participate, even the team members working in the spin-off, they can participate in the accompaniment and non-financial support with all the consultancy and all the mentorship offered in the program, and they can receive money, but in this indirect way, always through the non-profit institution, which is the official beneficiary.
Okay, next question is related to the interviews steps. Yes, in 2021 we are planning to make the interviews remotely, yes, virtually, using Zoom.
The next question says, the consortium should be led by only one institution? Yes. In this case, in CaixaImpulse, for any of the two calls, it has to be led only for one beneficiary institution.
Okay, next question is, for CaixaImpulse Validate, a consortium is needed? No, the consortium is needed. It's an option, but it's not mandatory. Does the PA have to meet any specific requirement based on the CaixaImpulse Validate? No. No, we are in relation to PI, also in the leader of the research, the project leader in this case, could be the PI or not could be the PI. Is not a mandatory, and there is not a specific requirement based on that.
The next one says, when are the results from the first selection of the shortlist known to applicants? How much time then to the submission of the full project? So in the case of CaixaImpulse Consolidate, the letter of intent submission period ends at the end of March. From that moment, there are like 3 weeks for reviewing the letters of intent. And by the end of April, the pre-selected letters of intent are announced, publicly announced, and they are then invited to present a full proposal. For the submission of full proposal, they have around 3 weeks approximately, and then after those 3 weeks, the members of the Innovation Selection Board, they will have access to those full proposals to prepare the panel, and the panel will take place at the beginning of June, more or less.
Okay, so how many copies are allowed? Depends on the project. We have no limit in relation of that. Okay.
The next question, what is the complementary document requested to upload? It depends on the call. There are some documents that are present and listed in the platform, so you can access the Smart Simple platform where you have all the different calls and all the different required information, and you will see it's not most of the information that is requested in the moment of the proposal. It's already configured within the form of the application, so it's more complementary information related to specific aspects of the asset and the project, but it's not the key information which is already configured within the application. In the case of CaixaImpulse Consolidate, for example, since having an IP strategy is compulsory, we ask for the information about the IP, the patent, if there is one in place, and also if there's a business plan. It's not compulsory, but we also think that it's something that adds more value to the application. If you have it, you can also attach it to the proposal.
Okay, next question is, when there is a patent provisional application, what is the complementary documentation requested to upload? In this case, as complementary documentation, you can upload the patent or utility model application, if any, but that is not a mandatory to have a protected asset to present to CaixaImpulse Validate.
So there was one question. There is a TRL limit when applying to CaixaImpulse Consolidate. There is not. There is not. As long as you fulfill all the requirements with the IP protection or a strategy at least being worked on, and having a robust development plan and the right TRL, at least 4, there's not a limit.
Okay, next question. We are research teams with a CEO who is not part of the research institution. Can be he the PL of the project? We have to be some link between the project leader and the beneficiary institution. So in principle, you can apply with this situation, but you have to prove some link. And this is also important that the organization manager of the beneficiary institution have to agree this application of this person using our online platform.
Mm-hmm. I would just add that in the case of CaixaImpulse Consolidate, there's not such a requirement. So the project leader doesn't need to have this link that they do have to have in CaixaImpulse Validate, but in CaixaImpulse Consolidate, they don't need to have it in order to be project leader in one of the applications for CaixaImpulse Consolidate. The next question says, reimbursement equity, how does it work for incorporated spin-offs that receive Validate funding? In this case, if the beneficiary institution that presents the proposal has achieved the specific KPIs, for example, what we were mentioning before, that starts receiving revenues from the exploitation of the asset, then we are entitled from La Caixa Foundation to ask for the return of this grant. So if the project has already received validated funding, once they finalize the participation in the program and they have this achievement of this KPI, then they can start returning this grant. The pace is different depending on if the project is on Consolidate or Invalidate. Invalidate is a return of 0.5% of the gross amount of the revenues of the beneficiary institution, and in Consolidate is a pace of 5% of the total gross amount of revenues for the non-financial institution that was beneficiary in the program. In any case, both grants from CaixaImpulse Validate and Consolidate are cumulative, so it includes the 100,000 euros from Validate and the 300,000 euros from Consolidate. It's a total amount of 400,000 euros that have to be returned in case this clause is applied. In the case of equity, so once a project from CaixaImpulse Validate incorporates a company in the framework of the program or after participating in the program, then they have to inform us so that we can also inform our colleagues from Caixa Capital Risk, and then we start all the machinery to ask for this 1% of equity of the company. If the project later on wants to participate in CaixaImpulse Consolidate, we won't claim this 1% again. So it's not cumulative like the reimbursement. So we only ask for 1% of equity once during the participation of the project in the two calls.
Okay. Thanks. Question: is there special requirements for the team members? They all need to be workers of an institution. As I mentioned before, the project leader has to be linked to the beneficiary institution. The rest of the team members as well. It's also important to point out that the CaixaImpulse Validate grant allows us to pay salaries, to pay human resources as a maximum of 40% of the grants. But this is important a point to have clear, that the tech transfer member, usually the tech transfer member also participates in the project of the CaixaImpulse. In this case, the tech transfer office member has to be allowed to the tech transfer and has to be assigned by them and but not paid by the CaixaImpulse grant.
The next question: can applicants choose which selection panel will review their application? So in this case, the different panels are based on the business areas. So once you prepare your proposal, you will have one section in the form where you have to select a specific business area, if it's diagnostics, therapeutics, medical device, or digital health. And the experts in those panels are distributed, taking into account the match between their expertise and the field and the business area of the panel. So projects are distributed by business areas in the two panels.
Okay, next question is, can we get some help from your experts to write the business plan or the proposal? I'm not sure if you are meaning from the Validator or Consolidate calls, but in this case, this is, I'm sorry, Alex, but this is the first time I received this question. We have not been in this situation before, but in principle, not. We are not offering expert advice to prepare the proposals.
Right, the next question: if someone has already a successful proof of concept and wants to develop the science as a startup instead of in the academia, is there a program for that? CaixaImpulse actually allows that. So basically, you can access the program as a non-profit beneficiary institution, but once you are in the program and you're participating in CaixaImpulse, either CaixaImpulse Validate or CaixaImpulse Consolidate, you can incorporate the company immediately. So there's not a limitation for that. The limitation is before the application. So you cannot apply as a startup for any of those two calls. But once you are inside or participating in one of those calls, you can incorporate the company at any time, and you can execute or your valorization or development plan or business plan being a company.
Okay, next question is, cost included should only include expenses carried out from November 2021 onward. Taking as a reference the calendar, the selected projects, the visa communication arrived on June, but the CaixaImpulse validate financial grant will be confirmed on November. And we are some flexibles to include some expenses from June, July to November. So it's allowed to include this kind of expenses before from July to before the financial grant is approved.
Is there any requirement in terms of curriculum vitae for the project leader? Well, there are some specific requirements. It's not as in other research supporting calls where you have to include a lot of publications and all your background doing research. This is important as well, but what we value the most here and the evaluators in the selection process value the most is the commitment of the project leader to participate in the activities, to lead the tech transfer process of that specific asset of that project. And it's very important also that the project leader has also some experience on some support in the tech transfer field. So if the project leader has participated in acceleration programs or has some background or has participated in some other training and has some specific background, that's very positively valued as well.
There is a general question. Could the project include team members not related to any institution involved in the application? How can we do it? We recommend you to add them as a member of the team. We have been in some other editions, have some advisors, external experts to be involved in the program. So it's allowed, but you have to include us as members.
The next question is, can a consortium, including a startup, participate in CaixaImpulse Validate? Startups, as we were mentioning before, are not entitled to be part of partners or to be partners in the consortium that are presented in any of the calls. So in this case, if the consortium is formed by specific non-profit institutions, the project will be eligible. The startups can be collaborators, but they cannot be beneficiaries at any level of the grant of the program.
Next question, could it be eligible the cost to hire the project leader? Yes, the cost to hire the project leader is allowed in the CaixaImpulse Validate call. As a maximum of 40% of the grant has to be devoted to pay salaries or to pay human resources. There is only this kind of limitation.
The next question is, make costs of regulatory activities such as discussions with notified bodies and respective file applications eligible? Yes, those concepts are totally eligible. I have to say that we are very flexible with the concepts that are covered by the two calls, by CaixaImpulse Validate and CaixaImpulse Consolidate. And as long as it's properly justified and we think that it makes sense with the prioritization or the development plan presented by the project, we don't have any limitation to accept it. Those costs and those concepts are things that typically are included in development plans that we cover. So they're totally eligible.
And there is a question, can a PL apply with two different projects, one to consolidate and one for validate? Is the participation in the project incompatible with the participation in another? Alex, do you want to?
Yes, so one project cannot apply at the same time to CaixaImpulse Validate and Consolidate. It's incompatible. So if that happens, then the proposal from CaixaImpulse Validate will be excluded from the selection process, and the project will follow the selection track of CaixaImpulse Consolidate only. But one project of CaixaImpulse Validate can participate or apply to CaixaImpulse Consolidate as long as the project has participated, or the team members of the project have participated in the training activities. They have presented a valorization plan, and that valorization plan has been accepted by the program office in CaixaImpulse Validate. If that has already happened, then that project is eligible to present an application to CaixaImpulse Consolidate, even if they are still executing the valorization activities within the framework of CaixaImpulse Validate. But as long as they have the approval from the office that the valorization plan is okay and they can go on, from that moment on, they can apply to CaixaImpulse Consolidate.
Yes.
Yes. The second question is the participation in the project incompatible with the participation in another. Just one little comment. So one project leader has to be project leader of only one application at once, but they can be team member of another application that person is not leading. So they can be involved in different applications in any of the two calls, but only leading one of them. Sorry.
Okay, next question is, must we include in the budget the extra 20 or 50K from the beginning of only if the project is selected? Yes, this is an important question because in the moment of the application, we ask you to make a budget distribution of 50,000 euros. And then when you are selected, you enter into the into the training, expert advice, mentoring program, and it's in the valorization panel in November when we ask you to make the presentation not for the 50K euros, you have to make the presentation, for the 100,000 euros. And that will be the moment that you have to be granted, to approve a final economic grant from 100,000 K. But in the moment of the application, yes, you only have to make a budget distribution of 50K.
The next question is, in case of two non-profit institutions leading, one will be the lead and the other one the collaborator. So as we have designed the structure of CaixaImpulse for either CaixaImpulse Validate and Consolidate, there's only one leading institution. So that means that, yes, the other partners are always collaborators. And this is very important because our direct interaction from La Caixa Foundation to the beneficiary will be through that beneficiary institution. So it's very important to decide who's going to be that leading institution. And also because all the obligations in the rules for participation for both calls applies on the leading institution. So all the reimbursement clause that we're commenting on before, and also the payments of the grant will be done to the leading institution, the beneficiary leading institution, who will be responsible of distributing the grant among the different partners of the consortium.
Okay, next question. Is it a problem if a team member has been the project leader in a previous edition of CaixaImpulse and related projects? No, there is any problem with that. In fact, we have some project leaders we have repeated in the CaixaImpulse Validate in different editions with different projects, and some members of the tech transfer office that has to be participate as well two times. So there is any limitation in that.
The next question, are also eligible the services development projects that require commercialized technologies to build the business case? Yes, they are eligible. In fact, as long as it's properly justified, there's not a limitation to cover that specific aspect. It's also important to mention that since there's also non-financial support with this tailored let's say, accompaniment program, there are some aspects that we can offer from La Caixa Foundation, like free consultancy, that the beneficiary institution has not to take from the grant that is provided in the program. So that's also a plus in the call.
Next question, is it possible to apply with team members who are finishing their PhD? thus not sure about their future link with the institution. In the case of CaixaImpulse Validate, yes, it's possible that in the moment of the application, there is this link of the project leader is also finishing their PhD.
Mhm.
More questions?
Well, it seems that there are no further questions. So, well, first of all, I would like to thank the CaixaImpulse, the research and innovation team of La Caixa Foundation, Belén Perat, Francisco Miguel Torres in the backstage, and Alex Esteban, and as well the whole communications team that is supporting, that is making this possible, but especially the researchers and research managers that are behind the applications of this year. We encourage you to apply to the CaixaImpulse project. If this program means something, is because you are there. So thank you very much for trying again, and maybe we can stop here. Thank you very much, and bye bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye.
you.